today, the day we're recording this, happens to be the 50th anniversary of
the publication of On the Road. And from that point on, Kerouac was rich and unhappy. It's a very sad story. He wished to have a life of freedom and experience, and he became such a celebrity overnight, and people besieging him for attention, that he took to drink. Now, alcoholism is a difficult thing to call, but that's the assumption, that if the attention was too much for him, it meant that his old lifestyle was over. And he continued to have a tremendous personality. People just loved his presence, but he got far too much of that. And then he was looking after his mother. He made a vow to his dying father to look after her. And now he has a nice suburban home in Long Island or Florida, and he's really looking after his mother now, whereas she previously worked in a shoe factory to support his ventures abroad to write. So it was a big change for him.
And when you say it was overnight, it literally was.
Well, it's
overnight.
like Lord Byron. I woke and found myself famous. Yeah, next morning, he and his girlfriend went over to where they unbound the New York Times, and they look at it under a street lamp, and here's this review for On the Road, and it's by a guy who normally wouldn't have reviewed, a younger fellow, and he just simply described it as the book for the generation. And he said, well, this is pretty good, isn't it, Joyce? And she said, it's very, very good. 50 years ago today.
It must be a real thrill. Is that reviewer still alive? Because he nailed it. I mean, so there's so many people walking around, like the person who, all the publishers who trimmed down Harry Potter, and the guy who said the Beatles had no talent, or Fred Astaire. I mean, there are all those people, but that guy nailed it because it really was the book.
Yes, he was sufficiently young to be attuned to it, even though the book had actually been written 6 years before, and he had it rejected. And during those 6 years, he wrote up a storm. He wrote all sorts of versions of On the Road. One's called Visions of Cody. It just goes on, but it has beautiful poetic moments. His style, his ability to develop new ways of expression, and the scroll above the typewriter idea, and all those things are part of the experimental aspect of the beats. They experimented with light. They experimented with modes of writing. So Ecstasy, the Beats is very much about that.
I was thinking, your book it's also a beats book. It's your road trip looking for the beats.
Oh.
And I was reading it going, wow, this is like, he's taking me along for the ride. I'm going on, going down the road with him. That was neat.
Oh, well, it was just a pure joy. And funny thing is that the book starts with me meeting some kids that had done the same thing from an upstate New York college. I picked it up on the web that, to celebrate this great event, they were heading out to San Francisco, and they've reached Denver, and they're headed for New York City. So I went down there on the bus to this Greenwich Village club, and talked to these kids like my fellow spirits.
And there's got to be like 50 years, no offense, man, but there's got to be about 50 years difference in your ages.
Well, hey, Craig, I mean, it's true. Yeah, it's true. I'm getting on in years. But the story, it still absorbs me. I think people of all ages, teenagers particularly, teenagers like Bob Dylan and Jim Morrison, right? Just swept away by the power of the writing and the vision of America that he presented. But now I'm drawn to their Kerouac, but the beats. What I call being on the road to understanding. They're well known for I mean, certain interest in drugs and sex, of course, but that's so tiresome. They were interested in what I call ecstasy, what they called ecstasy. I call the book Ecstasy of the Beats because that has to do with a pleasure that's higher than mere sensory pleasure. It's a pleasure in something beyond. They're fascinated by the afterlife, by Eastern religions, Buddhism. What is the essence of life? What is it like? What are we looking for? And at one point in On the Road, Dean Moriarty says it's it, capital I-T. That is, it's something indefinable. But to find it is the whole point of the journey.
The book is The Ecstasy of the Beats, On the Road to Understanding of It. Speaking with the author David Creighton, and Ecstasy of the Beats is published by Dundurn.